So in the last video, we have seen that how to add the custom user to the Spring Boot application through the application.properties. Here, however, we are able to create the custom user, but there is a limitation. The limitation is that I can have the single user through the application.properties. But in some case, we require to have a multiple user. That what we can do. Okay. So now I'm going to introduce a third approach for implementing this Spring Boot security, which is known as the in-memory authentication. Okay. So if I want to use that in-memory authentication, okay, so at that time I have to put all these thing in the comment. So I'm putting everything into the comment. Otherwise, that the in-memory authentication will not work. Okay, so to introduce the concept of in-memory authentication, okay, I'm going to create one new folder called config, and inside this config folder I'm going to create a class called security config. Okay, but before creating anything inside this security config class, or before writing anything inside the security config class, let me explain that what this in-memory authentication. So in-memory authentication means that your database, sorry, your username, password and the role related information would always stored in the password. It will not go to the hard disk. Okay, so once you shut down your application, everything would be flushed from the system. Okay, and when you will run your application once again, that password, username, password and roles would come back into the memory. Okay, so that is the meaning of in-memory authentication. Okay, so let's implement the in-memory authentication. So guys, the first thing is that now you have to tell to the Spring Boot application that you have a special class which is going to look after the authentication related activity. So that's why we have created this security config class. You can have whatever name that you want. Okay, but you have to mark this class like this, that enable web security. Okay, so that means you have told to the Spring Boot security that, hey Spring Boot security, now whenever there is an authentication kind of task that you have to perform, then you come to this particular class. Okay, so this is one shot of configuration. Okay, another thing that I have to do with this class is that I have to extend web security configurer adapter. Okay, so this is the thing that I have to do, these two things I have to do, and then I have to generate one method, and that method I'm not going to generate, but I'm going to override from the super class, that is the configure authentication manager builder method. Okay, so basically whenever there would be a code or there is a task related to authentication, at that time this method would be called. Okay, so here we supposed to write the code related to in-memory authentication. So what I'll be writing, I'll be writing auth dot in-memory authentication. I'm telling to the Spring Boot that I want to do, or I want to implement the in-memory authentication. Okay, yeah, that is what you have told. But where are the username and passwords? Okay, so to provide the user related information, you can type like with user. There you can provide the user information, sorry, username. Let's say the user is admin. Okay, then dot password. Okay, you can provide the password also. Let me provide the password, that is admin. Okay, and also you can add the roles. Okay, so let's have a role that is called admin. Okay, that's it. You have created a one user, and this particular user would be the user that can log into the Spring Boot application. Okay, so let me rerun the application and let me check whether it is working or not. Okay, so the application is started. Let me go back to the browser and let me refresh this. It should ask me for the username and password. It is not asking. Why? Because I am already logged in. So I will log out. and I will try to relog in. Okay, let me provide the username admin and password admin. Okay, what has happened? Admin and admin. Let me click on sign in. It is not allowing me to log in. Let me check that what has happened. So I have implemented the web security. Also, that web security configure adapter is there. Okay, and here, yeah, here I have the error. Okay, so what I forgotten to introduce the password encoder. Okay, so let me write something over here, and I'm going to explain what I'm going to write. So guys, whenever that in the e-commerce application, whenever we write a or we store the password, that password would be always stored in the some scramble form. Okay, or that password should not be easily readable by someone else. Okay, so password would be stored in some scramble way, so that no one would able to read it. Okay, so that's why that the Spring Boot provides the support of encoding. Your password would be, your plain text password would be encoded into some other form, and it would be stored into backend database. Okay, so generally Spring Boot follows this kind of strategy to store the password. But for our application right now, we are not going to apply any encoding. But anyhow, I have to provide the support of encoding. Okay, without any encoding operation. Okay, so for that I'm declaring this uh, bean. Okay, that is public. Okay, and the return type would be over here, that is password encoder. Okay, and the method name would be anything, that is here I'm taking a method name, that is get password encoder. Okay, and this would be method, and inside this I'm going to return no op no password encoder, no op password encoder, this one. Okay, dot get instance. Okay, so here what I have done, that I have created one method, and ultimately what is going to happen, this method is going to create will be implemented in some class. That's why I have mentioned the at the red bean. Okay, so who is going to create that class? The Spring Boot is going to create a class, and that will implement this particular method. Okay, so that's it from our side. Okay, so what we'll be doing, we'll be running the application, and let's see that we are able to log into the system or not. Okay, good. Now let me provide the user, let me refresh this first, and let me provide the username and password admin, and clicking on sign in. Yes, I have successfully logged into the system. Okay, so here that what we have done, we have introduced the concept called the in-memory authentication. Now obviously you would have questioned that if we have more than one user, then obviously you can add more than one user. Just you have to use this pattern, like you have to write and then with user, you can specify one more user. Let's say user itself dot password, let's say user, and roles, let's say the role is user. Okay, and you can save this. Okay, so I'm rerunning the application, and first let me log out from the system. Okay, and here I'm providing a username user and password user, and let me click on sign in. It is working. Okay, so guys, we have successfully created our application with the help of in-memory authentication. That's it for this video.